The fluorescent lights of the courtroom hummed incessantly, creating an oppressive atmosphere that heightened the simmering tension hanging in the air like a dense fog. As he rose to address the jury, Elijah's mind raced with the weight of history on his shoulders. He could almost hear the echoes of those who had come before him, the voices of civil rights leaders and ordinary folks alike who had dared to dream of a world where justice could be blind to color. Clearing his throat, he glanced at his client, a young man in a faded hoodie whose future hung in the balance. Each word he delivered was laced with urgency, a plea not only for the truth, but for the acknowledgement of a life that had been devalued by society's prejudices. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began, his voice steady yet strong, piercing through the haze of skepticism that clouded the room. "Today you are not just arbiters of facts. You are custodians of a vital principle, the principle that every person, regardless of their race, deserves to be treated with fairness and respect. My client stands accused, yes, but behind this accusation is a young man who has dreams, aspirations, and a story that matters." As he spoke, Elijah envisioned a future where the scales of justice were balanced, a world where his community could thrive without the weight of bias. He realized that even in the stark confines of the courtroom, hope could flourish if only hearts and minds opened. The jury listened attentively, their expressions shifting subtly as Elijah's arguments unfolded before them like a compelling narrative. Each pause in his speech resonated within the courtroom, drawing them deeper into the gravity of his words. With every eloquent phrase, he implored them to see the humanity behind the statistics, human stories filled with dreams, aspirations, and the struggle for dignity in a society that often overlooked them. Elijah urged the jurors to look beyond the surface of the case, to realize that the outcome had ramifications that transcended the courtroom. It had the power to shape the narrative of an entire community, to either reinforce the status quo of oppression or to ignite change and inspire hope. His voice trembled with a mix of passion and urgency as he sought to awaken in them a sense of justice that extended far beyond the legal definitions of guilt and innocence. This was not merely a trial, it was a pivotal moment that could alter the trajectory of lives and the future of a community yearning for equity. In these defining moments, Elijah felt a resurgence of hope swelling within him, like the dawn breaking over a shadowy horizon. Each subtle nod from a juror, each slight shift in body language, felt like small victories, tiny ripples that might one day swell into a tide of change. The energy in the room was palpable, charged with an electric undercurrent of possibility. He observed their faces, etched with concentration, as if they were deciphering not just the case, but the very essence of justice itself. With renewed fervor, he concluded his statement, his voice resonating with conviction. "Imagine a world where justice acts as a bridge, not a barrier, a seamless connection that unites rather than divides. A realm where the color of one's skin does not dictate their worth or their fate, but is celebrated as a facet of our shared humanity. In this vital moment, I implore you to protect not just my client's future, but the very moral fabric of our society that weaves us all together. Remember, the choice is in your hands. Choose rightly, for the echoes of your decision will ripple through this community for generations to come." As he returned to his seat, the murmurs of the gallery intensified, a palpable blend of hope and apprehension swirling in the air like a tightly wound spring ready to unfurl. People leaned in, their ears attuned to every word, their hearts beating in synchrony with the unfolding drama of the trial. Elijah watched intently as the jurors exchanged glances, brief flickers of doubt and curiosity dancing across their features, their brows furrowed in contemplation, yet tinged with the flicker of possibility, a budding sense of change that could ripple through the very foundations of their community. Yet inside the courtroom, the atmosphere crackled with tension, each person acutely aware that this pivotal decision held the power to alter the trajectory of Jamal's young life dramatically. The stakes were monumental. The verdict could either shatter his future dreams or flicker hope into the dim recesses of despair that had begun to envelop his spirit. Nervous whispers floated among the spectators, interwoven with the muted rustle of paper and the soft tapping of shoes against the polished floor, all echoing the reality that this moment was not just about legalities or protocols, but about morality and the quest for justice. It was a moment that could serve as a beacon of dignity, illuminating the path toward reform and healing within a community torn apart by division and mistrust. The weight of the collective gaze, filled with both skepticism and hope, bore down on Jamal, mingling with the anticipation that maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point they all sought, a chance to redefine their understanding of fairness and humanity in a world often shrouded in darkness. His client, a young man named Jamal, sat beside him, his gaze fixed on the worn wooden table, tracing the intricate patterns etched into its surface like a man grappling with the gravity of his situation. Jamal, only 22, bore the weight of the accusations like a heavy cloak, every fiber of his being tensed under the pressure of the judgment that loomed over him. Accused of aggravated assault, a label that dogged his footsteps relentlessly, Elijah understood all too well that the charge was rooted in prejudice rather than truth and systemic bias. Elijah took a deep breath, collecting his thoughts as he prepared to speak, aware that the weight of the moment bore down heavily on both of them. "Jamal, I know this feels unbearable, but we need to stay focused on the facts," he said, his voice steady but low, infused with a calm urgency. He could see Jamal's fingers twitch slightly, a telltale sign of his anxiety surfacing again, echoing the turbulence within. "The police report is riddled with inconsistencies, and we can use that to our advantage." As he spoke, he noticed a flicker of recognition in Jamal's expression, as if the legal jargon had suddenly transformed into a lifeline. Jamal's eyes, a vivid contrast to the gray walls around them, met Elijah's gaze, filled with a mixture of hope and desperation that tugged at Elijah's heart. They had fought this fight before, a relentless tug of war against fate and bias, but the stakes had never felt so high. Jamal stood on the precipice of a future that might forever be marred by this incident. Despite their past victories, this case seemed different, laden with the bitter weight of societal influence and prejudice that could undermine everything they were striving for. The shadows of doubt flickered at the edges of their resolve, but with each passing second, as they redefined their strategy, Elijah could sense Jamal beginning to relax just a fraction. It was a fragile shift, yet it was enough for both of them to draw strength from. Together, they were determined to challenge the narrative that sought to confine Jamal to a label he rejected. Elijah leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if the walls themselves could betray them. "Remember our strategy," he urged, his intensity unwavering. "We have witnesses who stood by and observed the entire confrontation, their testimonies forming a crucial backbone for our case. This was no unprovoked attack. Rather, it was a culmination of escalating tensions, and we can present that evidence to show the jury how things really unfolded." As he spoke, a flicker of determination crossed Jamal's face, a mixture of hope and stubborn resolve igniting within him. He nodded slowly, fully aware that while so much of this situation lay beyond his control, there were still critical elements he could actively fight for. It was a subtle reminder that within the chaos of his circumstances, there lay a kernel of agency, a power to reveal the truth and confront the misconceptions that had sought to define him. The gravity of their mission settled over them like a cloak, yet also sparked a fire of resolve. Elijah's confidence radiated outward, fortifying Jamal's spirit as they prepared to forge ahead against overwhelming odds. Elijah continued, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. "Additionally, we'll need to emphasize Dale's history. Every detail matters. If the jury can grasp the troubling pattern of his behavior, the numerous altercations, his persistent lack of accountability, they might begin to question not just his credibility, but the very narrative he seeks to weave. It's crucial that we paint a vivid picture of how his past actions have led to the present. This isn't merely about presenting facts. It's about crafting a compelling story that underscores a consistent failure to take responsibility." The ambience of the small conference room felt suffocating, an overwhelming pressure that clung to the air like thick fog. It pressed against their chests, yet the gravity of their situation urged them to sift through the chaos for clarity. They were not just fighting for a verdict. They were combating a deeply ingrained bias that threatened to overshadow justice itself. The stakes were monumental, and as they gathered their thoughts, a flicker of determination sparked amidst the oppressive atmosphere, guiding them toward their next strategic moves. Jamal glanced down again, his expression shifting as uncertainty washed over him. "What if they don't listen?" The words trembled on his lips, filled with a desperation that permeated the air. What if they just see a black man sitting there and think they already know the story? His voice was strained, drowning under the weight of an ingrained fear that had been cultivated by years of societal prejudice. Each syllable carried with it the anguish of a lifetime spent battling stereotypes, the dark shadows of prejudice looming large. Elijah could see the internal struggle flickering in Jamal's dark eyes, a reflection of the fight raging within him. This wasn't merely a courtroom battle, it was a war against the biases that threatened to strip away his identity and humanity. In that moment, he recognized the depth of Jamal's fear, not just of the verdict that awaited him, but of being reduced to a mere statistic, a faceless figure in a system rigged against him. Elijah's heart ached for his friend, for they were not just combatants in a legal struggle, but warriors fighting against an unforgiving tide that sought to dehumanize them both. That's why it's absolutely crucial for us to humanize you, Jamal, Elijah emphasized, leaning forward in his chair, his eyes filled with urgency. You're more than just an accused man. You're a son, a brother, a friend, and a member of this community that loves and believes in you. We need the jury to see the full tapestry of your life, the laughter shared at family gatherings, the quiet moments spent dreaming about the future, and the love you pour into your friendships. It's essential that they understand you in context, beyond the confines of these courtroom walls. He paused, measuring his words carefully. You're not defined by this single moment. You have a story, and we will show them that your life extends far beyond these accusations. Together, we will unveil the truth of who you really are. As the two men unfurled plans, their earnest conversation about strategy and hope was interrupted momentarily by a soft knock on the door. With a gentle creak, it swung open to reveal a woman whose presence was both commanding and warm, instantly brightening the room. It was Aisha, a well-respected community advocate whose reputation for fighting for justice preceded her. She had caught wind of Jamal's case through local grassroots efforts and felt an urgent need to lend her unwavering support. I can gather testimony from neighbors who witnessed the events unfold and who have known Jamal since he was a child, she suggested, her voice steady and confident, a contrast to the uncertainty that had previously hung in the air. Her eyes sparkled with determination, reflecting a fire that ignited hope in the hearts of the two men before her. Together, we can weave a narrative that paints a vivid picture of a young man ensnared in a complex web of circumstance, not the monster that others have misguidedly portrayed. We have the power to remind them of the child who played football in the streets, the teenager who volunteered at the community center, and the compassionate friend who would lend a helping hand to anyone in need. This story is not just about allegations, but about humanity, a narrative that deserves to be heard. The air shifted, becoming infused with a palpable sense of purpose that began to dissolve the heavy gloom laden with doubt that had previously engulfed them. The tension that had clung to their shoulders began to fade, gradually replaced by an exhilarating feeling of unity and shared determination. Elijah felt a surge of motivation wash over him, a vibrant force that radiated from Jamal as each word he spoke seemed to ignite the passions within them. They were no longer merely two individuals trying to weather a storm. They had evolved into a formidable duo, a beacon of hope unified in their resolve. Together, they were part of something far larger, a movement spiraling outwards, drawing in allies from every corner of their community. Each of them represented a thread in a burgeoning tapestry dedicated to dismantling the stereotypes and systemic injustices that threatened to ensnare not just Jamal, but countless others who grappled with the same burdens. The air crackled with a shared belief that change was not only possible, but within their grasp. As their voices grew stronger, they felt a sense of solidarity emerging that promised to challenge the very foundations of prejudice itself. The three of them gathered in a huddle, their brows furrowed in concentration as they brainstormed the next steps in this tumultuous journey, aware that they were embarking on a mission with the potential to change lives. The weight of their mission settled in. This wasn't merely about proving Jamal's innocence. It was about challenging an entrenched system that was all too eager to side with prejudice, dismissing the voices of the marginalized without a second thought, while seeking justice for those who were silenced. The sound of laughter echoed faintly from outside the building, a stark reminder of the vibrant lives unfolding in a world seemingly untouched by their struggle. It felt both like a distant dream and an urgent call, urging them to act before the sun set on their hopes. But in that moment, surrounded by like-minded allies who understood the depth of their commitment, they found an unwavering strength in their shared resolve. Together, they became a formidable force, champions of justice ready to illuminate the truth, a radiant beacon cutting through the dark uncertainty that threatened to engulf their lives and the life of their friend. They envisioned a future where justice would prevail, where the innocent would be protected, and where the systemic biases that had long prevailed would be dismantled piece by piece. Each idea they exchanged sparked new possibilities in their minds, igniting a fervent passion to not just right a wrong, but to transform their community for the better. The air thickened with determination as they turned their focus back to the stacks of documents laid out on the table, each page containing critical information that could potentially alter the trajectory of their fight for justice. It was as if the weight of their mission condensed into palpable energy, enveloping the room in a charged atmosphere. Each piece of evidence was a potential thread that could unravel the fabric of the case against Jamal, revealing the truth hidden beneath layers of accusation and prejudice. Maria, the most analytical of the trio, gathered her thoughts as she began sorting through the papers with meticulous care, her brow furrowed in concentration like a skilled detective unraveling a complex mystery. "If we can find a witness who can corroborate his story," she suggested, her voice steady but tinged with urgency, "it would strengthen our position immensely. We need someone who was there, someone with no vested interest, who can bravely stand up for what is right, not just for Jamal, but for the countless others who have fallen victim to the same oppressive system." As Maria spoke, the others leaned in closer, their resolve solidifying in the face of an arduous task. The stakes were high, but so was their commitment to uncovering the truth, no matter where it led them. "What about the surveillance footage from the night of the incident?" David chimed in, his fingers tapping anxiously on the table, each tap echoing his mounting urgency. "Surely no. We should find out if there are any cameras in the vicinity that could provide a different angle, something that shows Jamal wasn't even there." No. His eyes lit up with hope as he considered this new lead, the spark igniting a sense of determination within the group. The thought of uncovering evidence that could exonerate Jamal filled the room with a charged energy, an unspoken pact that they would not rest until the truth was revealed. Or, it's not just about the footage. It's about proving that what they did to him was wrong, he added fervently, the words tumbling out passionately. They all understood that every small detail mattered, and access to that footage could be pivotal, a vital thread in the fabric of their mission. They envisioned scouring the local shops, identifying potential locations of security cameras, even speaking to neighbors who might have seen something, anything. The possibility of a breakthrough loomed like a beacon, drawing them closer to the heart of a conspiracy they were determined to unravel. "Areti natin. We need to split up and cover more ground," Mia suggested, her eyes narrowing with focus as strategies began swirling in her mind. "I can head over to the electronics store nearby. They usually have access to security systems and might be able to tell us where the cameras are." "Sakunonon." She glanced around the table, gauging the resolve of her friends. "David, why don't you check with the local diner? They might have footage from the street or know the businesses around them." David nodded, feeling the surge of collaboration. "I'll ask if they remember anything unusual from that night, too. It could be something as simple as a strange car or someone acting out of place." Sakuriyuri. Their plans were falling into place like the pieces of a puzzle, gradually revealing a larger picture. "And I can talk to Jamal's friends," Alex piped up, his voice steady now. They were around him before the incident and might have noticed someone who shouldn't have been there. The group exchanged determined glances, their individual strengths complementing one another's like the instruments of a cohesive orchestra. Each person felt the electric pulse of urgency, yet intertwined with a sense of purpose that only came from fighting for a friend. "Let's regroup at sunset," Mia suggested, her mind already racing with possibilities. "We can share what we've found and come up with our next steps." Suriyur. As the group began to disperse, a feeling of unease settled over David. "What if we don't find anything?" he murmured, voicing the doubt that lingered just beneath the surface. "Hornon, we will," Mia replied, her voice firm. "We have to believe that there's something out there, and we can't give up." For Jamal, Suriyur, With their resolve fortified, they set off into the bustling streets, each step resonating with newfound determination. The city buzzed around them, alive with voices and distractions, yet all they could focus on was the mission. The weight of the world felt heavy on their shoulders, but as they split into their respective tasks, they held on to one unwavering idea. Finding the truth was no longer just a hope, it was a necessity. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden hues across the buildings, the air bristled with anticipation. Each friend moved through the crowd, hearts racing and thoughts consumed by the quest they had set in motion, determined that before the night fell, they would uncover the evidence that could change everything. As the conversation deepened, the atmosphere shifted, transforming from a casual gathering into a sanctuary of trust and shared experiences. The friends navigated through a tapestry of personal stories that weighed heavily on their hearts, each revelation cutting through layers of vulnerability like a delicate blade. Mia, her voice trembling yet resolute, recounted the moment she had discovered her mother's struggles with mental health and how it had shattered her idyllic view of childhood. Every word she spoke painted a vivid picture of sleepless nights spent worrying and the feeling of helplessness that trailed behind her like a shadow. Sitting next to her, Jake opened up about his own battle with self-doubt, revealing how the pressures of societal expectations had stifled his dreams. His confession hung in the air, filled with an urgency that resonated with everyone present. They were no longer just friends gathered for a night of excitement. They had become a collective force, intertwined in a shared mission that transcended their individual struggles. As each story unfolded, the walls of indifference dissolved, replaced by an unwavering bond forged in mutual understanding and a fierce resolve to confront the challenges that lay ahead. As Jasmine's fervent declaration echoed in the room, it triggered an unexpected wave of solidarity among her friends. Amir, who had been quietly absorbing the gravity of the discussion, finally spoke up. "You're right, Jasmine. We can no longer stand idly by. My cousin faced something similar, a wrongful conviction that tore his family apart. The system didn't just fail him, it devastated us all." His voice was laced with bitterness and resolve, and as he recounted his cousin's story, the group leaned in closer, their collective empathy weaving a stronger bond among them. Hearing Amir, Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her glass. "I grew up hearing about my grandparents' struggles as immigrants, how they faced discrimination at every turn. They fought for better opportunities, yet I can't help but feel like the fight continues in different forms today," she shared, the memories bringing a steely determination to her demeanor. "Their resilience inspires me, and I believe we owe it to them and ourselves to stand up against these injustices that persist." Jack, who had remained silent, felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He cleared his throat, his mind racing with thoughts he had kept buried for too long. "I've been afraid to speak out, to show my support, but hearing all of you tonight, I realize it's not just about being right. It's about being human. We share this world, and if we want to see it change, we have to be brave enough to advocate for one another." His admission ignited a flicker of hope, and with every word he shared, the group nodded in support, affirming the shared belief that they were stronger together. As they continued to share their stories, each revelation forged a stronger commitment within the group. They began brainstorming actionable steps, ideas lighting up their eyes. "What if we held a community meeting?" Jasmine suggested, her enthusiasm palpable. "We can invite speakers, share resources, and educate others about the struggles individuals face within the justice system. And we could create a social media campaign to raise awareness," Sarah added, buoyed by Jasmine's resolve. "We could use our platforms to shed light on these injustices and amplify the voices of those who feel unheard." Amir nodded vigorously, his mind racing with possibilities. "Let's not just talk, let's organize. Together, we can create a movement. This isn't just about Jamal or anyone else we know. It's about building a more just future for everyone. It won't be easy, but if we can unite even a small part of our community, imagine the change we could inspire." With each idea, a fire ignited within the room, the air charged with determination and possibility. They knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but in that moment, surrounded by friends who understood the depths of their struggles, they felt ready to take the first step together. They were a tapestry of hope woven through their shared stories, ready to stand against the tides of injustice with courage in their hearts and a commitment to change. The resolve in the room intensified, fueled by the heartfelt stories that had been shared, the laughter now distant but still echoing in their minds, reminding them fiercely of the struggles, both past and present, that had brought them together. Each story was a colorful thread woven into the fabric of their collective experience, narrating tales of resilience in the face of adversity. They envisioned a future where no one else would have to suffer due to the suffocating grip of ignorance or the insidious nature of injustice. With palpable enthusiasm, plans began to take shape. Ideas flowed like the coffee that fueled their late-night brainstorming sessions, each suggestion sparking energy and inspiration. Strategies were meticulously discussed and crafted, and in an empowering collaborative effort, they began assigning specific roles, ensuring that each member could contribute their unique strengths and talents to the cause. This newfound unity was not merely a reflection of their commitment to a shared goal. It was a vibrant tapestry of diverse perspectives that breathed life into a mission they had all come to believe in wholeheartedly. With a renewed sense of purpose, they felt an unprecedented optimism blooming, transforming the weight of their challenges into a powerful momentum that would carry them forward. With every passing hour, they worked tirelessly, fueled by an endless supply of steaming coffee and the steady rhythm of their shared determination reverberating through the room. Laughter sometimes punctuated their focused discussions as they exchanged ideas, each contribution a spark that ignited even greater passion within the group. As night shifted seamlessly into morning, the first rays of dawn gently streamed through the windows, illuminating their makeshift workspace and casting hopeful shadows against the walls that had witnessed their struggles and triumphs. It was a transformative moment, marking not only the end of a long session of brainstorming, but also the beginning of what they believed to be a pivotal turning point in their journey. They left the building not just as individuals, but as a cohesive unit, bound together by their shared experiences and unwavering commitment to a cause that transcended them. United, they felt an invigorating sense of empowerment, ready to face the world outside and challenge every preconceived notion they might encounter, believing firmly that in their collective strength lay the potential to inspire real change. As they stepped out into the warm sunlight, a profound sense of purpose washed over them like a tide, invigorating their spirits and igniting a fire within. The world beyond the door was still there, brimming with laughter and animated chatter. Yet now each sound resonated differently in their ears. It felt charged with purpose. Every face they passed became a testament to shared dreams and unbroken spirits, painting a rich tapestry of human experience. The city was alive, and within it lay unfathomable possibilities. Possibilities for transformative change and unwavering justice. They felt an innate readiness to confront the entrenched systems that sought to stifle their voices and dictate their paths, determined to break free from the invisible chains that had long held them captive. With their heads held high like beacons of hope, they forged ahead, unwaveringly committed to the noble fight for truth and justice. This journey was not merely about one individual's freedom, it was about sowing seeds of courage that would ripple through the community, inspiring and empowering others who found themselves caught in the same struggle. They envisioned a future where solidarity prevailed and despair was replaced by tenacity, a future where they could stand together and declare that their combined strength was more impactful than any voice silenced by fear. As they moved through the bustling streets, navigating their way among the throngs of people, they felt their resolve strengthen with each purposeful step. The vibrant colors of the city, which had once merely served as a distant backdrop to their day-to-day existence, now seemed to pulse with a newfound potential, reflecting the urgency of their mission. The bright murals adorning the buildings shouted stories of resilience and struggle, serving as visual reminders of the many voices that needed to be uplifted. They noticed the electric energy in the air, a tangible hope that buzzed around them. Nearby, animated discussions erupted among small groups, where strangers had become allies, sharing heartfelt stories of their own battles against silence and oppression. These candid exchanges, blossoming on street corners and in cafes, wove a rich tapestry of shared consciousness that transcended individual pain and sorrow. It was this collective spirit, alive with intention and camaraderie, that ignited sparks of courage in their hearts, urging them forward into the fray with an unshakable belief in the power of unity. "We can't do this alone," one of them declared with a steely resolve, casting a meaningful glance at each of their companions. The weight of their shared experiences was palpable, each heart echoing with the burdens they bore. We need to rally everyone who feels this weight, the ones who've been silenced and forgotten, the voices that have faded into the background of this community's narrative. As the gravity of their mission settled in, the others nodded vigorously in agreement, understanding that their movement was meant to be a tapestry woven with the threads of all those who had been marginalized. Together, they huddled in a semicircle, excitement sparking in the air as they brainstormed ideas with fervor, envisioning vibrant gatherings in public parks and bustling community centers. Spaces alive with energy where people could come together to share their stories, vent their grievances, and find solidarity in their struggles as they sought to transform their community. As they shared their visions, one voice rose above the rest, a newcomer named Sophia, whose passion was palpable and contagious. Her presence, though recent, seemed to light a spark among the attendees. "What if we also incorporated workshops?" she suggested, her eyes alight with enthusiasm that seemed to radiate through the room. "Imagine offering not just skills training, but also art classes that could inspire creativity and self-expression. We could even include mental health resources that address the emotional well-being of our community members." These gatherings could transform into vital lifelines, offering support and knowledge that empower individuals to thrive. The group nodded in agreement, the idea resonating deeply and igniting a sense of purpose among them. This was not merely about gathering for the sake of connection. It was about fostering growth, nurturing talents, and cultivating resilience in the face of challenges. They could create a sanctuary for learning and healing, a space where each person could walk away with new tools and renewed hope. They erupted in discussions about diverse topics: nutrition, financial literacy, and the arts, all potential focal points for the workshops. Each topic was more than just a subject. It represented an opportunity to tackle real-world challenges that community members face daily. As conversations flowed, individuals shared personal anecdotes and experiences that transformed the meeting room into a vibrant tapestry of ideas. Carlos, a seasoned facilitator of community events, chimed in with enthusiasm. "We could partner with local organizations to provide expertise. Think of the connections we could foster." His words resonated deeply, sparking a vision of collaboration where community resources could be pooled together for greater impact. Each person began to envision themselves leading a session, not just imparting knowledge, but also learning from the diverse perspectives of their peers. The thought of creating an interactive environment where storytelling and practical skills could intertwine filled them with a sense of excitement and purpose. As they brainstormed, Maya, a local artist, suggested incorporating art therapy into the mix. Art has a way of bringing people together. It can be a powerful tool for healing and expression, she explained, her eyes sparkling with passion. The group nodded appreciatively, considering the potential of creative outlets for both personal and communal growth. They began to imagine workshops where participants could use canvases and clay to explore their feelings, cultivating both individual expression and collective understanding. Then Jacob, a recent graduate with a head for technology, proposed an idea that intrigued everyone. "What if we created an online platform to extend our reach? We could host virtual workshops, allowing members who can't attend in person to participate." His proposal opened up a world of possibilities, enabling them to invite speakers from afar or connect with experts who could enhance their learning experiences. The synergy in the room buzzed with excitement as they contemplated a hybrid model of workshops that could cater to a broader audience. In the midst of this lively exchange, Linda, an experienced nutritionist, pointed out the importance of sustainability. "We can't rush into these topics without considering their long-term impact. Why not incorporate lessons on sustainable living? Perhaps even a community garden project?" This idea struck a chord, sparking discussion about how communal activities like gardening could cultivate not just food, but relationships and a deeper connection to the environment. The group began sketching potential schedules, mapping out how different sessions could intertwine over the coming months. They envisioned a vibrant calendar filled with interactive workshops, art sessions blending into sustainability talks, all anchored by inspiring stories of triumph over adversity shared by the participants. "Every session can be a launching pad for deeper dives into various topics," Carlos added, his enthusiasm infectious. "We can build a curriculum that evolves with us." As the meeting drew to a close, The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and hope as they departed with clear action items, ready to reach out to local organizations, artists, and community leaders who could help amplify their message. Their shared commitment to creating a rich tapestry of learning opportunities instilled a sense of hope and pride, affirming their role as active participants in societal change. Slowly, their brainstorming sessions shifted from ideas to actionable plans. They divided themselves into groups, one for logistics, another for outreach, and yet another to develop a vibrant online presence that could sustain the movement beyond the physical events. As assignments were handed out, the buzz of creativity became a tangible force, pulsing through the room. They could feel the momentum building, and an unseen bond sparked between them. Days turned into weeks as they worked tirelessly, meeting regularly to refine their ideas. They crafted a mission statement that echoed their shared values and desires: to cultivate a supportive community that uplifts every voice and fosters understanding through shared experiences. The mission statement became their rallying cry. Posters began to fill up their social media feeds, visually telling the story of what was to come. As the date for their first event approached, anticipation swirled like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind, a feeling that was palpable in the air. Each passing day added to the excitement, with chatter buzzing through local coffee shops and community boards. As the participants eagerly shared their hopes and expectations, they held their breath, feeling the shared sense of purpose as they watched the engaged interest grow in their community, transforming casual acquaintances into allies. When the day finally dawned bright and clear, the park was not just a venue, it was a vibrant tapestry woven from laughter, music, and the tantalizing sense of food wafting from local vendors. Families gathered with colorful picnic blankets spread out like a patchwork quilt, creating a perfect setting for connection. The sounds of children playing mingled with live performances, while old friends reunited amidst the colorful backdrop, sharing stories that echoed their shared history and ignited new friendships. This gathering wasn't just another event. It was a celebration of unity, a fusion of cultures, and a chance to forge deeper bonds in the community. With everything coming together, the opening speaker took to the mic, her voice steady and passionate. Welcome to a space where every story matters, where your struggles are recognized and your triumphs celebrated. This is just the beginning. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a wave of unity enveloping them all. In that moment, they understood that their mission had only just begun. This gathering would lead to future events and strengthen the ties within their community, igniting the flame of hope and perseverance that would continue to burn brightly. As they were lost in these thoughts, they stumbled upon a small but lively community event. It was just a handful of people discussing local issues. Yet it was a powerful reminder that every movement begins with action, however small. They decided to join in, quickly finding themselves swept up in discussions about housing rights, fair wages, and the importance of mental health resources. Each participating voice added fuel to their fervor, igniting a fire that promised to spread. With every conversation, they gathered fresh insights. If we can come together and share our experiences, we can shift the narrative, one woman passionately stated. People need to understand that this isn't just about legislation, it's about our lives, our futures. The urgency in her voice resonated deeply, striking a chord in everyone present. They began exchanging contact information, forming alliances that promised to stretch beyond this moment. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, they left the event with their hearts full of inspiration. They knew that their journey was just beginning, but the path ahead was clearer than ever. Thoughts of organizing a larger event, perhaps a citywide march, began to form. They wanted to gather people from all walks of life, wielding signs that shouted for justice and change, to make sure their message was seen and heard loud and clear. This was not just their fight. It was a fight for everyone who craved freedom from oppression. They felt the weight of their vision, but also the exhilaration of its possibility. Together, they would wield their collective power to challenge the status quo, to educate, and to mobilize. In that moment, they became more than individuals. They became a community, a force determined to transform hope into action, dreams into reality. As they gathered in the dimly lit room, each member shared their stories, their struggles echoing like a shared heartbeat. The urgency of their mission was palpable, and together they began crafting a plan that could ripple through their community and beyond. They envisioned workshops to empower those silenced by fear, rallies to ignite passion, and art to communicate their unyielding spirit. Every idea sparked conversations, igniting the fervor that bolstered their bond. Among them was Maya, whose voice rang through the group with a fervent dedication. "We must create safe spaces for everyone," she urged, emphasizing the importance of inclusivity. "Our message should not only resist oppression, but also cultivate a culture of understanding and healing. Each individual's experience matters, and we must honor those narratives as we fight for justice." They decided to organize a community festival, an event steeped in joy and solidarity that would draw people from different backgrounds. It would feature local musicians, artists showcasing their work, and storytellers sharing tales of resilience. They wanted to illustrate that their fight was not only against chains of injustice, but also in favor of joy, creativity, and human connection. As the festival day approached, excitement mingled with anxiety, echoing the feelings of the community members they sought to serve. They faced challenges: a lack of funding, skepticism from some community members, and the ever-looming threat of pushback from those in power who preferred the status quo. Yet with each hurdle, their resolve only strengthened, relying on shared support and collaboration to overcome barriers. As night fell and stars twinkled overhead, casting a magical glow across the landscape, the air was filled with a palpable sense of hope. As they gathered later to reflect on the day's powerful events, a wave of emotion swept over them as they marveled at the connections forged amidst the joyous chaos. Strangers had transformed into allies over shared laughter and impassioned speeches, and allies had blossomed into a tight-knit family bound by their shared vision. They could feel the electric energy in the air, a magnetic force that anchored them to one another and instilled a sense of unwavering purpose. This festival, they understood, was not merely an isolated celebration. It was a vital seed planted in the fertile soil of their community, and they were deeply committed to nurturing it. Each conversation, each moment of solidarity, was a potent reminder that they could cultivate those roots strong enough to withstand any storm that life might throw their way. Together, they would continue to push against the barriers imposed on them, nourish their dreams with unwavering determination, and fight for the freedom that burned brightly in their souls. Because freedom, they realized, was not a distant destination, but a delicate flame that needed to be ignited in every heart. And in that moment, they understood they had just struck the match, ready to spread its warmth and light across their community, lighting the way for a brighter future. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle overhead, casting a magical glow across the landscape, the air was filled with a palpable sense of hope. The soft crackling of the bonfire harmonized with the laughter that echoed from the main square, where community members had come together to celebrate not only their unity, but also the progress they had made in their fight for freedom. People leaned closer to the fire, mesmerized by its dance, as they shared stories of their journeys and dreams, each tale illuminating the resilience that lay within their souls. They were no longer just participants. They were now stewards of a vision, united by a common purpose that transcended their individual differences. This gathering had become a sanctuary of sorts, a place where barriers faded and hearts opened. Each story told around that fire was like a thread, weaving together the fabric of their collective experience. From the elderly recounting tales of struggle during turbulent time, to the youth sharing their hopes for a brighter future, everyone contributed a piece of the puzzle. Their connection deepened as they recognized that their narratives, though uniquely personal, were intertwined in a shared saga of perseverance and hope. One member of the group, an artist named Mia, stepped forward to propose a plan that had been forming in her mind. "What if we create a mural that depicts our journey?" she suggested, her eyes shining with inspiration. "A visual representation of our growth, our struggles, and our triumphs, something vibrant that can inspire others in the community." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and soon others started contributing ideas. A musician offered to write a song to accompany the mural's unveiling, while a poet expressed his desire to weave words of resilience into its narrative. As they brainstormed, the night deepened, cloaking the room in a soft, warm glow, provided by the simple hanging lights that twinkled like stars above them. The ambiance served as a gentle reminder of the larger community enveloping them. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, charged with a collective spirit that seemed to draw inspiration from the vibrant tapestry of life outside. Ideas blossomed like wildflowers in spring. They envisioned dynamic workshops aimed at teaching essential life skills, from entrepreneurship to financial literacy, designed not just to inform, but to empower the community to build a brighter future. This was just the beginning. They passionately discussed organizing community cleanups, where neighbors could unite to beautify shared spaces, revitalizing their neighborhood while fostering a sense of belonging among residents. Jamal, a respected local leader known for his unwavering passion and dedication to the community, stood up and spoke of the systemic challenges they faced, his voice steady yet charged with emotion. We mustn't forget that while we celebrate our successes, we also need to advocate for change. Our progress is a testament to our resilience, but it should not blind us to the injustices that linger in the shadows, he urged, his gaze sweeping across the gathering. Our voices together can amplify the calls for justice that go unheard, resonating far beyond this neighborhood. Each project we embark on is not just an event, it is a reminder of the vital work still to be done, a call to action that echoes in the lives of those who feel marginalized and voiceless. We must urge them to see us as equal partners, not merely constituents, he stated passionately. By raising our voices together, we can capture the attention of decision-makers and affect real change, ensuring that the perspectives of the marginalized are prioritized in their initiatives, thereby fostering a more equitable society. As they deliberated, the fire crackled, sending sparks soaring into the night sky. The warm glow cast flickering shadows that danced across their faces, each one illuminated with newfound determination, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The scent of burning wood filled the air, mingling with the palpable tension of their discussions. They recognized that every flicker of flame mirrored the challenges ahead, for they knew that their journey would not be without obstacles, and there would be days of doubt and discomfort that could threaten to extinguish their resolve. Yet in that moment, surrounded by friends and allies who shared a common purpose, they felt the strength of their collective spirit surge within them, anchoring their resolve like a sturdy anchor against the stormy seas of uncertainty. It was this sense of unity, bolstered by laughter and shared stories, that fortified their commitment to each other and the cause they believed so deeply in. Each challenge they faced was no longer a solitary battle, but a communal endeavor, one that ignited their passions and spurred them on toward a brighter, more equitable future. Eventually, they reached a consensus to organize a larger gathering every season, a vibrant festival that would celebrate the ongoing progress of their initiatives and the resilience of their community. With the promise of tomorrow glowing bright on the horizon, they wrapped up their night, drawing strength from each other's presence. They were no longer just a gathering of individuals. They were a family bound by shared dreams and an unwavering commitment to a brighter future. And as they stood together under the wide expanse of the night sky, they knew that this was just the dawn of their movement, a spark that would ignite into a wildfire of unstoppable change. The prosecution's narrative is a carefully crafted fiction, Elijah began, his voice resonating through the silent courtroom, the tension palpable in the air, heavy with unspoken words and darting glances. They present Jamal as a violent aggressor, a stereotype they've placed him in because of the color of his skin, which dictates his fate before he even steps onto this floor. The prosecutor, a thin, pale man named Mr. Henderson with sharp cheekbones that accentuated his haughty demeanor, leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, the lenses glinting under the harsh fluorescent light of the courtroom. "Objection, Your Honor," he declared with a dismissive wave of his hand. Counsel is engaging in inflammatory rhetoric designed to sway the jury's emotions rather than base his arguments on the actual evidence presented. His voice dripped with a condescension that echoed throughout the hushed courtroom, attempting to undermine Elijah's passionate plea. Henderson prided himself on his calculated precision, wielding legal jargon like a weapon to deflect any raw emotion that might expose the chinks in his carefully constructed case. "Overruled," Judge Thompson stated firmly, his gaze unwavering as it swept across the room, commanding the attention of every occupant. He was known for his fairness, a rare quality in a judicial system often marred by bias and prejudice. But Elijah understood that fairness was a delicate illusion here, easily shattered by the weight of racial dynamics and power imbalances that permeated the very air they breathed. The courtroom felt like a battleground, with Judge Thompson serving as a mediator in a war where the rules of engagement were inherently skewed. Elijah felt a sense of urgency swell within him. He knew that the stakes went beyond this case. They represented a crucial moment in the ongoing fight for justice in a system all too willing to overlook the plight of the marginalized. Every overruled objection, every moment of condescension from Henderson was a reminder of how fragile that fairness truly was in this charged environment. Arawa. Elijah clenched his fists subtly under the table, the wood pressing into his palms as he took a slow breath to steady himself. Today was not just another day in court. It felt like a reckoning, a chance to bring forth truths that had remained silent for too long. Elijah presented his evidence. Witness testimonies that contradicted Dale's account, security footage that showed Dale initiating the physical contact, and expert testimony highlighting the systemic bias within the local police department. He spoke of the history of racial profiling, the unspoken assumptions that painted young black men as inherently dangerous. "We are not here to perpetuate stereotypes," Elijah continued, his voice rising with controlled passion. "We are here to seek justice, and justice cannot be blind to the realities of prejudice." He cross-examined Dale, exposing the inconsistencies in his story, the underlying animosity that colored his words. He challenged the police officer who had arrested Jamal, revealing the rushed investigation, the lack of thoroughness, the reliance on preconceived notions. "Is it not true, officer," Elijah asked, his voice sharp, "that you arrived on the scene and immediately assumed Jamal was the aggressor?" The officer hesitated, his eyes darting around the room. "I acted according to procedure." "Procedure," Elijah repeated, his voice laced with irony. "A procedure that conveniently overlooks the history of racial bias in this very town." The tension in the courtroom was palpable. The jury, a mix of white and black faces, watched intently. Elijah knew he was walking a tightrope, balancing legal strategy with the raw emotion of the moment. He was not just arguing a case, he was challenging a system. In his closing argument, Elijah spoke of the burden of being black in a society that often saw you as a threat. He spoke of the need for empathy, for understanding, for justice that transcended skin color. "Jamal is not a stereotype," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "He is a young man, a member of our community, deserving of the same presumption of innocence as anyone else. We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for equal treatment. We are asking for justice." The jury deliberated for hours. When they returned, the foreman's voice echoed through the courtroom. "Not guilty." A wave of relief washed over Elijah. Jamal's eyes filled with tears as he gripped Elijah's hand, his gratitude silent yet profound. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, a blend of surprise and grudging respect. As Elijah walked out of the courtroom, the setting sun casting long shadows, he knew the fight was far from over. But today, he had made a difference. He had stood against prejudice, not just for Jamal, but for every black man and woman who had ever been judged by the color of their skin. And that, he knew, was a victory worth celebrating.